What's up, everyone? Okay, so today is my birthday. I have this long-standing joke with my younger brother John that every time it's our birthday, we call each other to say, hey, you know what day it is today? So this was his day to call me and say, or no, I call him to say, hey, you know what day it is today? And he's like, oh yeah, it's your birthday. We always just pretend to do this. So, 58 years old today. So I've been reflecting on this all morning. Thank you for the. I just posted something on Instagram, and I already started getting people saying happy birthday, and I really appreciate it. I have a discount birthday code, as I usually do for my live streams, which is RB424. 50% off the Beato book bundle, which is my YouTube, Instagram transcription along with the Beato book. And then 30% off the ear training course. Chris Burrito, shout out to you, one of my dear friends from high school. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the lessons I've learned here in my 58 years. It seems like such a long time. When I was 13 years old, I told the story in a video recently that I broke my ankle. And I was stuck at home lamenting the fact that I couldn't do anything. It was the first week of summer. And I had a guitar sitting there. I picked it up. One of my brother's guitars, just a cheap $1 guitar. And I had an America book, the first America record. And I learned my first song by looking at the chords and playing the record. There's a song called Never Found the Time. My first chord I ever learned was G sus4. Really, pretty funny. So I ended up spending 13 weeks that summer, the entire summer, playing guitar and not realizing that that was something that was going to transform my life. I had already been playing music. I was a bass player. I played bass in the orchestra, upright bass, classical. And I actually have my undergrad degree in classical bass. But I became obsessed with the guitar. And I started practicing all the time and learning. I took lessons in high school and played in bands and wanted to go to college for music. So I wanted to be a guitar major. So I auditioned at two different colleges. I told this story in a video a long time ago. I auditioned at two colleges, Ithaca College and Fredonia State University, and I played classical guitar in both of them. I had to learn 3 pieces in different style periods. Well, I didn't know what style periods meant, and I bombed the auditions because I played pieces. One of the pieces was a Scarlatti piece that I learned off a Julian Bream record, and the other 2 were ones that my guitar teacher, Glenn, who wasn't really a classical guitar player, taught me from this Mel Bay book. And when I was at Ithaca, the professor there, Steve, was like, what kind of arrangement is that? And I said, I learned it out of a Mel Bay book, and he just rolled his eyes. And I got rejected from both colleges. About 2 weeks later, I intercepted the mail. They both came the same day. And I was so humiliated, I didn't tell my parents or anyone. I said I lied, and I said I got into college, which I didn't do. So I went to Fredonia because that was one of the places, because the track coach recruited me and said, look, you can't get into the music program, but you can come and be on a track scholarship. So I did for the first semester. And I met a guitar player named Phil Sasso, a freshman there. And the guitar teacher, Joanne Castellano, wouldn't give me guitar lessons. So I couldn't get into the music program at Fredonia. So this guy, Phil, another freshman, taught me how to play classical guitar well enough in 5 weeks to re-audition at Ithaca to get in. I mean, I was crushed when I didn't get into either place. And it crushed me. I can't believe that I kept it from my family for 30 some odd years till I talked about it in a video about 3 years ago here on my channel, right at the beginning of my channel. I said, I'm going to tell a story that no one in my family even knows about. I had forgotten about it for years. So I had almost quit. I was so humiliated by not being able to get in because I thought, okay, I can play the guitar really well. I've got a great ear, all this stuff, but I couldn't do what the required tasks were, playing these classical guitar pieces. So I get into Ithaca. I transfer the next semester. My parents are like, why do you have to re-audition? And I said, oh, I just have to. So I get into Ithaca. And it was the same teacher, Steve Brown, who's one of my dear friends now. Well, 2 years after not getting in, Steve asked me to do a duo gig with him when I was a junior. And I told him the story about being, humiliated by him not accepting me. And here I was playing a gig with him 2 years later. So I go to grad school. I get my master's degree in jazz guitar. I ended up not being a guitar major. Because of that, I actually transferred in as a bass major because I was the first chair bass player in the orchestra in my town. And had I auditioned on bass, I would have gotten in the first place, right? So I was a bass major, and then I went to grad school for jazz guitar. And when I finished my degree at the beginning of '87, I moved back to Ithaca just to hang out with my buddies that were still in college there for a couple months. And I was going to move to New York and try and make it as a player. But I did a gig with my old teacher, Steve, and he said, hey, we want you to be a professor next semester in the fall of '87. Are you interested in doing that? So I thought about it for a couple of weeks. I said, no need to let me know now. And I finally said yes. So I became a music professor from '87 to '92 at Ithaca College. Now, you never know when things are going to change in your life, though, because I'm a college professor and teaching jazz studies and wrote my Beato book then. Discount code RB424, birthday discount, and same thing for my ear training course. Thank you for all the super chats. You guys are amazing. So in 1989, a buddy of mine said, hey, I want you to play on a demo. I said, okay. And he's like, what is it? Oh, there's some of my songs. I was like, I don't play rock anymore. And he says, no, just come play some guitar. Just play some guitar parts. So I play some guitar parts in this thing. And a couple weeks later, he says, the VP of Elektra Records called me and said that we have hit songs and he wants to see us play. So this started me on this thing towards playing in rock bands again, like I did when I was in high school. So, or junior high and high school. So I started doing that. I ended up getting a publishing deal. So this guy, my buddy Alan, taught me how to write pop songs. And I wrote them with him. So we got a demo deal with Elektra Records. And I took a leave of absence in 92 after that year. And I tried to make it in a band. We never got signed or anything. I ended up living back home in 1994 in January at my parents' house at 33, broke. I had my car was going to get repossessed and everything. I had been paying on it. I owed $1,000. My family, I have 6 brothers and sisters, helped me out. My brother Ray gave me a job for about 5 weeks, and I saved up, I don't know, enough money to get my stuff out of my credit cards were in collection, all this stuff, and to get back on my feet. And I saved a few $100. And I decided I'm going to now go back out and try and make it again in a band. And of course, my parents were thinking like, why did he quit his college teaching gig? This is insane. He's 33 years old. He wants to try and think, but I had a vision for the kind of music I wanted to play. So I take off, I start driving, I drive to Chicago. I spent a few weeks in Chicago, about a month or so living. I met some people. I lived with some people that were going to the Chicago Art Institute. Some people I met just when I first pulled into town. And I just had stuff in my Honda Civic and I would load it in and I checked out the music scene. And it was the Wicker Park area and there was bands like Veruca Salt had come out of there and Smashing Pumpkins, and I liked a lot of bands from Chicago at the time. There's a great indie music scene there. But I ended up saying, no, this doesn't feel right. And then I ended up taking off. I went to Denver, spent 3 months there. Then I said, well, I'm going to go to New York City then. So I drive from Denver to New York City. And I meet this band the first week I'm there that is from Amsterdam. And they were going to go record over in Europe, in England, a few weeks later. So they want me to come play bass. So I go over to Europe to play on this record, which ends up getting shelved about 3 days into it. And the guy, the owner of the record label, pays me. And I spend 5 weeks in going around Europe. I went to Bristol because I was really into Portishead and Massive Attack and the Bristol music scene, the trip-hop scene that was down-tempo, whatever you want to call it, that was going on at that time. I was really into that. So I spend 5 weeks in Europe. I spend all the money I made. I come back and I move back to New York with my buddy Roger. And the first day I start auditioning through the Village Voice. And I met, I got, one of the bands was a band called Ivy that Adam Schlesinger was in, who just recently passed away. He's a phenomenal musician. Those of you that don't know Adam, he was in Fountains of Wayne, but he was also in this band Ivy. And I got the gig playing bass in them, which I ended up doing for probably, 6 weeks or something like that. Bass and guitar, and I was just doing like multi-instrumentalist stuff because they had keyboards and things on the record. And I was playing in another band called Skeleton Key. And I remember I was at a gig at CBGB's playing bass. And this is a couple months into being in New York. And this guy, Howard Thompson, who was the guy that signed us to the deal at Elektra Records, the demo deal, was there. And he said, "Rick, what are you doing?" British guy. He's like, "What are you doing? You're wasting your life." And he said, "Why are you playing bass with this nobody band?" Okay. And I said, I don't know. And he said, "You need to be doing your own music." So I said, okay. So I went back and told my buddy Roger, "I'm moving from here." And he says, "Where are you going to move?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to go through Nashville, see there, maybe go to North Carolina," because I was into bands like Superchunk and the scene that was going on in Chapel Hill, a lot of indie rock stuff. I go to Nashville, spend a few days with my friend Paul, go to North Carolina. I was like, nah, it's not really happening here. And then I said, I'm going to go to Austin. And I passed through Atlanta to have lunch with my old college roommate, Doug, who I talked to yesterday, who still lives here. He was a lawyer at the time. We were roommates at Ithaca, and he went to Emory and became a lawyer. So he got me to stay here. He got me a gig that night. I was broke. And I ended up not going to Austin. This is 25 years ago. So I started from scratch. I started a band 2 years later. It took me 2 years to find people to play with. End of 96, beginning of 97, I started my band Billionaire. And my buddy Dave, I talked to this morning, he reminded me of this Billionaire gig that we did. We had made a demo on our own of about 5 songs or so in a studio. And we went to New York. Some people had gotten hold of our demo. And all these A&R guys showed up. Like 10 labels showed up at this gig. It was our 3rd gig. We played a place called Brownies in New York City. And so at Brownies, it was a total disaster. A horrendously bad gig. So my buddy Dave comes up after. He brought one of his friends who was the head of A&R at A&M Records. And Dave comes up to me and he's shaking his head. And I said, "How was it?" And I remember the sound guy came up after the 3rd song and put the mic on the snare drum. And it was absolutely, I could tell it was dreadfully bad. And he goes, I said, what did your friend Jim think? He said, "I've heard worse." So this buddy of mine who was a lawyer, Nick, came up to me, and Nick was an entertainment lawyer, but he was friends with one of my roommates, Rich. That's how I knew him. And he said, "Yeah, it was a disaster." I said, "What?" He goes, "You know what you guys should do is go make a record on your own, and then maybe in a year you see what happens and stuff." So I'm like, okay. So we go back home and we finished a record. A year later, it was my 35th birthday. And I called up my brother John on my birthday. So this is now 1998. And I said, "John, what do you think I should do? I'm 36 years old. I'm in this band. We just finished a record. Am I just wasting my time?" And he goes, "You know what? You should give it one more year. And if things aren't happening a year from now," no, it was 97. It was 97. He goes, "If things aren't happening a year from now, then you can call it quits. I said, all right. So we ended up getting a record deal about 3 months later, a huge bidding war for our band. And we were, you heard our song. If you watch my video on our demo, Lonely Runner, that was a song that was later on, but we were not a commercial band at all. We were kind of an indie rock band that didn't have obvious choruses. We'd have, interludes 40 seconds long before the choruses of songs and just really kind of strange music. Anyways, we got a record deal. We made a record. This producer ended up not showing up to the studio, all this stuff. We wasted all this money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and had a terrible sounding record. Horrible. And we ended up having the record put out, and a couple weeks later, the label got bought out in a big merger in 1999. So all that time wasted, getting a record deal, all that stuff, and then nothing. So I remember going to my friend Reed, who was a lawyer here in town, good friend of mine, an entertainment lawyer, and I was talking to him. I said, Reed, what do you think I should do? He said, well, why don't you try producing bands? And I was like, what? I said, after that disaster in the studio, I don't know how to produce bands. He said, you can produce bands. I said, no, what? I don't want to produce bands. He said, you should try it. I have a band that needs a demo. So he gives me this band, Left Front Tire, his demo. He said, call them and tell them I said that you need to produce their demos because they sound terrible. And I was like, all right. So I call them and tell them, yeah, this Reed tells me that you guys need better demos and that you need a producer. So he told me I should produce your band. And they said, what's a producer do? I said, well, I don't know. It's like a director of a movie. I mean, didn't know. And they said, how much do you charge? I said, $100 a song. I just made that up, right? So I go in the band with this band and spend 2 days in the studio and record 5 songs. I went to a buddy's basement studio. One of the songs ended up, believe it or not, on the American Pie 2 soundtrack. One of the songs from that session. And that was the beginning of my producing career, right? It started with, why don't you produce bands? Just kind of like I broke my ankle and I started playing guitar, or I didn't get into college, so I went on a track scholarship and re-auditioned and got back in. And then I was a college professor at the same school that I got rejected from 6 years earlier. So I started producing, and all this time through the producing, I have to mention the discount. Again, Aaron told me mention it. Birthday discount sale, RB424, 50% off my YouTube, Instagram transcription bundle with the Beato book, and 30% off the ear training course, my Beato ear training course. You want to get a great ear? That's what you do. This is how I make a living for my channel. I don't like to get on here and, and tell people that, but that's, most of my videos, as you know, get demonetized, and rightfully so. I'm not about, I just did the band Carnival, which is a phenomenal band. And somebody wrote to me on Instagram and said, oh, do they get and thank you for all the super chats. This is amazing. And they said, do you get, does the band get the money? I said, of course the band gets the money. It's their songs. I just do it because I'm a fan of all the, groups that I do, or I like to at least ask the question, what makes these songs great? Even if some of the artists I don't think have great songs, but I still do that. So, Subi, thank you. Anyway, so I start doing I start producing bands and about, I don't know, when my son Dylan was born in 2007, I started to reevaluate my life and what I was doing musically, and all the stuff that I was in, all the artistic music, modern classical music, jazz, things like that were important to me. All the music that was important to me at the time, I had just forgotten about. And I had, I started playing music for my son Dylan before he was born. And the music was this incredible musician, the greatest musician I've ever known, whose name is Aiden Essen, who I've learned more from than anyone else ever, not even close. Aiden is the greatest improviser I've ever heard. He's by far the greatest musician that I know. No, he has no contemporaries as far as I'm concerned. I started playing Aiden's music for Dylan every day before he's born, and then until he was about 2 years old, just every day playing Aiden's improvisations. And that's why Dylan has perfect pitch, I believe, because of listening to this music. And I started to rediscover all the music I was passionate about. And I was really into production. That was fun for me because it was a new thing. It was always about learning new things. And I was fascinated with sound. I still am. I'm fascinated in making sounds, guitar sounds, drum sounds, bass sounds, any type of, all recording techniques, plugins, things like that. I was just obsessed with great sounding records, production, things like that. I just love great sounds. There's records that I think have terrible songs, but sound so good that I listen to them all the time. But I don't listen for the music. I just listen for the sonics of it. And I marvel at how well they're recorded. So, anyways, so that's when Rhett, who had been interning at my studio, 2016. Well, 2015 had these massive viral videos with my son Dylan from my friend Shane saying, hey, make a video of the hardest chords you can for Dylan so I can show it to my wife. And I was like, all right, Dylan, come in here. And I'd play some stuff. And all of a sudden that video gets 22 million views. So about 8 months later, Rhett says, you should start a YouTube channel. Because I was doing stuff on Facebook at the time, but it was not really serious. And Rhett brought in his camera. You guys know Rhett Shull. Aiden's last name is Esen, Aydin, Esen. There's videos of Aiden on my channel. Look up some of the performances of things I recorded back in the 80s of Aiden playing. He's a keyboardist, and you can find him literally on my channel here. Type his name in on here, and you'll find videos. I put up videos on Aiden on my channel. He's Turkish. He's mind-bogglingly good. And I want to have him back when this stuff is all through and bring him back to the studio. So when Rhett said start a YouTube channel, I was like, come on, man, nobody's going to watch some old guy on YouTube, right? I mean, I always say that. I always laugh about that, but he taught me how to use the camera. He'd still say, what do you mean? You still haven't learned how to use a camera? But the editing in Final Cut Pro is almost identical to using Pro Tools that I used I worked in Pro Tools 12 hours a day since 1999. So editing video is very easy for me. Right at the beginning, it was easy. And I started making videos, one after another, of all the things that I was passionate about. Film scoring, ear training, music theory, improvisation, everything. No videos on production or anything like that. I made a few videos on mixers, famous mixers. Andy Wallace. Who else did I do? I did a bunch of Brendan O'Brien. I did a bunch of mixer videos for probably 6 or 7 mixers. Chad Blake, people like that. Great mixers. But no other production videos. The What Makes a Song Great thing was way into my channel. I already had 200,000 subscribers to my channel. But I started my channel and I had 47 subscribers when I started it in June of 2016. 47, And I just started it. And at night when I finished my sessions, I'd turn on my iPhone and I would make a video, throw it into Final Cut Pro, do a quick edit. And I have mistakes on it all the time. And I would put out the videos, and then sometimes if the mistakes were bad, I'd take the video down and fix it and put it back up because they never got any views. Not very many, but I got subscribers. I kept getting subscribers, and finally, the first person that ever reached out to me was Dweezil Zappa. Probably 3 months into my channel, and he said, I love your videos. And we talked on the phone and everything. And then Steve Vai reached out to me. And then eventually Victor Wooten reached out to me. And I started hearing from people. And I thought, well, maybe there's something to this YouTube thing. And the whole idea of this was to just give back all the things that I've been fortunate enough to have learned by having incredibly supportive parents and brothers and sisters who were always behind me with the music that I did. And I always had a fascination for all different genres of music. I haven't done videos on any of the, I mentioned the Bristol music scene, for example, earlier with Portishead and Tricky, Massive Attack and things. I've done no videos on any of that stuff. I've done no shoegazing videos. You guys know I love Swerve Driver, My Bloody Valentine, Ride. I love shoegazing music, but I've done no videos on any shoegazing bands before. I think I did one Swerve Driver video. I talked about Swerve Driver in one video, but so I haven't even begun to get into electronic music or things that I'm passionate about. And I've hardly made any production videos on my channel. So I have so many things that I want to talk about still that are really important to me. But I want to systematically go through the reason that what makes the song great. People are like, why is he talking about Led Zeppelin and stuff that's old? Because these things are historically important and they should be talked about. I really, really believe that. For younger generations, for whatever. Even for people that are my age that want to hear about those records, that there was this mystery to all these things. And I'm fortunate enough to have gotten tracks, many times from the artist, like the Carnival track that I did the video. If you guys haven't seen my Carnival video from yesterday on the song Goliath, it's a killer song. It came out in 2009. It was on a record called Sound Awake. They're a band from Australia. Great band. Heavy record. Oh, so heavy. It's in 27/4, the groove. It's incredible. Anyway, so this is why my channel exists, because because I want to give back the things that I've been fortunate enough to learn. Some of you have heard me talk about these things before. I always tried to take these things that happened to me, these, being humiliated because I wasn't prepared and getting rejected from 2 colleges and almost quitting, but turning it into something positive, or breaking my ankle. And so I have to stay home all summer and learning how to play the guitar because that's happened, Well, we're all in right now because of the pandemic that's going on. And this is a great time to say, okay, well, I know a lot of people hate this, some things happen for a reason. But it doesn't matter because we have time. If you're in right now, this is a time to do things that you never had time to do. I mean, I'm learning so many new things right now because of having this time where I don't have to take my kids to school. They're doing online learning. So I don't have to I don't have to get up at 5:30 in the morning and drive my girls to school and make lunch for the kids. And my wife and I get them ready and do all this stuff. And then I get back. And by the time I'm ready to go, it's 10 o'clock in the morning or 9:30 or whatever. Now I can get up and get right into this. It's great. And so I'm trying to make something positive about this. This is a time if you want to improve your ear. That's why I created my ear training courses for people. Doesn't matter what age you are. You can be 90 years old and improve if you can hear, you can improve your ear. That's it. That is a fact. It's all practice and memory. It's the same thing as like learning how to mix, recognizing tones. When I began to mix records, I couldn't tell if a kick drum was woofy or didn't have any bottom end extension, or what frequencies to EQ on a bass, or what a snare drum should sound like. It was finally, boy, when you turn up 7K, you can hear the snares better. Or 220 on the snare. Ooh, that's got a lot of fatter low end or something. Or, man, when I take out 500 hertz out of the kick drum, 400 hertz, it starts to clean up all the boxiness of it. Or if I add 1K on the kick drum, it kind of sounds like John Bonham, And you just start learning these things by training your ear to hear them. Same thing as hearing a major 7th interval or a perfect 5th. Or a major triad, or a dominant 7 flat 9 chord, whatever it is. Training your ear. RB424 is the discount code for that, right? Or the Beato book, Learning Music Theory. This is the time to do these things, to actually get deeper into understanding how music is put together. What is the theory behind it? 50% off that. I had to work that in there. RB424. Go to my store. If you want to support my channel, I said it the last live stream, and I rarely say this. You know, I don't like to plead for people for anything like that. I put the stuff at the end of my videos. If you want to support the channel, that's how you support the channel. You buy something, you know, a t-shirt, a mug, or, you know, I think buy something that to learn things from, you know, like improve your ear or learn about music theory, because that's the only way to progress as a musician. Both things are incredibly important, because music theory and in order to recognize something, you have to know what it is. Like intervals, for example, which is the first thing in my book. I talk about what intervals are. Anyhow, so this, you know, think about this opportunity right now of having to stay at home as a time to learn, a time to explore new things that you don't get a chance to do. I can't bring anyone in here to help me make videos. Rhett, Dave, any of the people you see in my videos, Les, Jack, that typically would come over. So we're all us YouTubers are dependent now on making videos our own. I talked to Rhett about this. I talked to all my YouTuber friends. Keith, 5 Watt World, subscribe to his channel, subscribe to Rhett Shull's channel. You know, we all talk about this, that we have to do all the stuff ourselves now. I always did all the stuff myself anyways. So, but this is the time here. So these are the lessons I've learned. You know, when you're dealt something like this, try to turn it into something positive. That's what I always try to do, you know, and I try to be positive and I try to project enthusiasm. I am enthusiastic about things that I'm passionate about. And I'm not, and don't be, this is another thing. Don't be afraid to be honest about the things that you like, the types of music that you like. I always joke about this, that, you know, 20 million people bought Nickelback records. Now, somebody must own them, even if no one admits to owning them, right? So I don't own any Nickelback records. No, I'm just kidding. I have no problem. Nickelback, they're fine. I don't like to get on and trash music. That's not what I'm about. That's not my thing. I like to look for the good. That's why I have the question mark and what makes this song great. What makes this song great is about asking the question, what does make the song? What do people think is great about the song? So that's it. That's all I have to say. This has been a great birthday. Thank you so much. All the people that donated on Super Chat. You guys are incredible. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Joe Guns. I mean, it's, and I will do some Chicory. I absolutely will do some Chicory. I'm going to get back to doing some stuff. I'm going to actually do some What Makes This Song Great with some jazz artists. I have to get to 100. I have 12 more videos to do, but we're getting there. But if you want to support the channel, buy something from my store. RB424 is the discount code, 50% off my my Beato book YouTube transcription bundle. It's a 600 some plus page PDF. Thank you so much. You guys are the best, absolutely the best here. And have a great, great rest of the weekend. Bye.